Hi everyone, I hope you're all okay. So let's talk about all the books that I read in January. So I read quite a few books that I have been so excited to read. So I'm really excited to talk about these. I feel like I just said the word excited about like 4 times. I'm going to be cheating a little bit because I want to first of all talk about a duology that I read. And I read the first one like over Christmas, so kind of late December. So it's almost January. So this is the Deadly Divine Duo, and this is by Ella Field, and it consists of Nectar of the Wicked and Wrath of the Damned. So these were very much just spicy, fey, romantasy books that were the perfect palate cleanser to read over Christmas and New Year. I kind of didn't want anything too heavy. I'd just come out of the Light Lark series, which was very, very light on like the spice. And yeah, I'd seen that Nectar of the Wicked was on Kindle Unlimited, and I do actually have both the books. And I've been meaning to pick them up, but the second book, Wrath of the Damned, wasn't on Kindle Unlimited, so I just read that with the book that I had. But these were great. They were exactly what I needed. They were really fast paced, they were fun, they were spicy. We had a morally grey fae like prince, we had like an arranged marriage, we had forced proximity. There was a little bit of plot there, but you could kind of see everything that was coming like a country mile ahead. I was basically just reading to like have a good time, if you know what I mean. Next up, we have the Shepherd King series by Rachel Gillig. So this is the 1 Dark Window and 2 Twisted Crowns. So I was really, really excited to read these because I've had so much hype about them online. They're both on Kindle Unlimited as well. But I have to admit that I didn't love these books. I feel like they're so hyped up. I don't really know what I was expecting, but for me, they kind of felt a little bit flat. I thought the magic system was really, really good. The magic system in these books are based around a deck of cards. So whoever has one of these cards, they obviously all have different powers, and you just tap the cards and then you get the powers. And the FMC Elspeth, she's kind of harbouring a bit of a secret, but she ends up working with one of the King's guardsmen and some like other people to try and find a whole deck of cards so that they can save the prince. It was a really interesting story, and I did enjoy like the dark gothic vibes of it, but it just felt a bit flat for me. I'd seen a lot of people talking about like the romance and like the spice, but there was like one spicy scene that was very much like a fade to black, and I felt like the relationship ramped up like really, really quickly. It was like 1 minute they just didn't really like have any time for each other, and the next minute they were like infatuated with each other. So it was a bit like, I don't know, I felt like we went from 0 to 100 super quick. I think I actually, on reflection, enjoyed the second book more, which was 2 Twisted Crowns. I didn't think I was going to, because it went from kind of being like single point of view to multi-point of view, and there was a lot of side characters getting a point of view, and I was a bit like, here we go. But I actually found myself enjoying the side characters' point of view more, because they were kind of leading the kind of romance side of things, and it was really good. I enjoyed the romance, I enjoyed the slow burn a bit more, and I actually felt like book 2 was a bit more entertaining. Like the Shepherd King was hilarious. I would give them 4 stars. I think they're really, really good books, and they're really well written, and the story was interesting, but they just didn't really like, I don't know, they just weren't amazing for me. So after I finished those, I was like, okay, what do we do next? I had a couple of weeks till Onyx Storm came out, so I decided to do a reread. And I wasn't going to do the reread, but I'm really, really glad that I did. So obviously that I threw myself into Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This is the Empyrean series. I'm sure you've had everybody talking about this series over the past month. You're probably sick of hearing about it. I read Fourth Wing and Iron Flame back in August, so I felt like they were still relatively fresh in my mind. But I'm not going to lie, I had pretty much forgotten all of Iron Flame. So I was so glad that I did do a reread before Onyx Storm, because I think I'd have gone into Onyx Storm being a lot more confused than what I was. But honestly, I feel like I have been more obsessed with these books second time round. I found myself being so engrossed and just obsessed with this even more. Even though I knew what was going to happen, I thought you're going to know what's going to happen, there's going to be no surprises, I still had a great time reading this. Like Violet and Xaden, I think will definitely be up there as like 2 of my favorite characters ever. And yeah, I had a great time. I definitely do enjoy Fourth Wing more than Iron Flame. I feel like Iron Flame, there's a lot of politics. There's a lot of time spent with other characters that I just don't overly care about. Finished Iron Flame. the night before Onyx Storm came out. So that was very, very good timing. So now let's talk about Onyx Storm. This bad boy, the highlight of the month. Oh my God. When I think about that week that Onyx Storm came out, I feel like it was absolute madness. I've never been so excited for a book release before since like my childhood. Like I literally felt sick. I was counting down the days. Honestly, I felt giddy. We went to like Waterstones in the morning to go and buy it. And then I literally blocked out 2 days of work. I was like, I'm not working for 2 days. I'm just going to read this. It was a wild time, but honestly, I loved this book so much. This was easy a 5-star for me. I just thought it was amazing. I loved it. I loved every minute. I just thought it was a very entertaining book. I felt like we got a lot of time with Violet and Xaden, which obviously I was very happy about. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've come away from this book with more questions than I did starting it, which I didn't think was possible, but there we are. And I do feel like I need to do a proper reread and go back and annotate and highlight and work out what on earth happened. I have actually done an Onyx Storm video. If you've not seen, I'll link it down below, where I basically just try and talk about what I think happened and what my theories are for the next book. So yeah, if you're interested, go and watch that. It's been like almost, I think it's like 3 weeks now, 2-3 weeks since I finished it, and I'm still very much not okay. I had a really exciting delivery. So this was my first ever ARC book, which I'm so excited about. This is A Dance of Lies by Brittany Arena. It comes out on the 5th of June, 2025, and it's been pegged as the most anticipated debut fantasy romance book of the year. So I was honestly buzzing my tits off about getting this book. I mean, it's so beautiful. When it came, I was like, oh my God, that is the most beautiful book ever. So this was a really interesting read. This is all about Vasily, who is a dancer. Now, she was a dancer in the king's court, and she had a very close relationship with the king. They were pretty much infatuated with each other, but their relationship had never really like progressed, but it was kind of like on the edge, if you know what I mean. Anyways, she gets framed for murder, which the king knows she did not commit because she was with him at the time of the murder, but he still allows her to be locked away in a cell for 2 years. After 2 years of being in a cell, she is dragged out of the cell to meet with the king, and he tells her he will make her a deal. If she becomes his spy at a month-long gathering where 3 kingdoms reunite, so there's 3 kingdoms and they're each ruled by a different brother, and they all have this terrible rivalry. So she's to become a spy. She's going to be a dancer and a spy and work for him at this gathering. He will give her her freedom. So she's in a bit of a sticky spot. She kind of has to agree to it. But you have so many questions about why has this king, who is clearly in love with her, allowed her to be framed for murder? Why is he now asking her to be a spy? What is she actually spying on? Like, there was just so many questions. It was so intriguing. This is like enemies to lovers. And what I thought was really interesting is that the love interest was not like apparent till about 60% of the way through. We had 3 potential love interests, and I was kind of just guessing. I was like, okay, it's going to be this fella. And then I was like, no, actually, maybe it's going to be this fella. And then, yeah, it turned out being one in particular. And then once it was apparent, the romance, the slow burn, the chemistry, all kind of like turned up a notch. And honestly, I was here for it. I loved it. And I kind of wanted I wanted more. It left me wanting more. It's not a spicy book. There's 2 like kissing scenes. But let me just tell you that these kissing scenes were actually so good. Like, you know when sometimes you don't need a lot of smut, like just a kissing scene suffices. The first kiss scene in this book has gone down in like my top 5 first kiss scenes of all time. It was so like almost like unexpected, like I didn't see it coming, and it was like under the illusion. So basically Vasily and this character were spying on some other characters, and they get caught. So in an attempt to try and hide themselves from being caught on spying, they have to pretend they're a couple, and it was just, I don't know, it was so exciting. I loved it. So I feel like I've got a new favorite trope now, but I feel like book 2 is where the magic is going to happen, because this ends on a bit of a kind of like semi-cliffhanger, but also the premise of book 2. And I feel like the premise of book 2, like what's going to happen, I feel like is going to be so interesting, and I'm really, really like intrigued to know where this story is going to go, because I'm like, I can't see how we're going to get out of this one. So the final book that I read in January, I did also start Powerless by Lauren Roberts, but I finished it like the first couple of days of Feb, so I'm going to save that for my February reading wrap up. But the final book that I read, and oh my god, what a wild book to end the month on. We have Split or Swallow by Lindsay Strobe. Now this has actually got two names. It's been traditionally republished at the end of this month, and it's going to be known as Kiss of the Basilic. I don't know how to say it. So its old name was Split or Swallow, but it's going to have this new name. And I managed to get a hands on a Kindle copy of this. I'm in a book group chat and it was circulated. So I was able to read this. Now, honestly, this is the most wild, spiciest book that I have ever read. I don't know if you guys have heard about it, but I've heard of people talking about this book, and I kind of don't even really know how to describe it to you. Now, the author's note in this book says it's better for you to go into this book completely blind. But I'm going to give you a little bit of a premise. So basically, this focuses on Tem, who is our FMC. And in this world that she lives in, when a prince comes of age, all of the local girls who are also the same age kind of compete to become his wife. Now, it's not just like normal competing. I'm not talking like a Hunger Games, Trials, The Bachelorette kind of style. These girls are trained by basilics. So it's kind of hard to describe, but basically there's this kind of like, they ended up with this agreement with the basilics, who also have like a human form, and they're all incredibly attractive in their human form. Like they sound like they all look like Rhysand from acotar. Their kind of agreement to kind of live within the world is that they kind of work for like the humans, and yeah, they train these girls up to be the perfect wife. So they basically are training these girls to please the future king and be the best wife that they can be. So it's honestly absolutely wild. So it focuses on Tem and her training. So she is trained by a basilic called Caspin, who I like to refer as a sexy snake. He sounds like Rhysand. I've got my friend to read it, and she literally messaged me last night saying I can't work out if I'm scared or attracted to him. And I was like, yeah, that is this book. But I kind of didn't think I was going to like this book because I heard it was wild, but I literally could not put this book down. I would think it couldn't get any wilder, and then it did. And I was like, oh my God, what am I reading? The first 20 chapters or so, it was just good old spicy fashion fun. And I was like, okay, I'm having a great time reading this book. But then from that moment onwards, it went completely chaotic. And there were so many moments that I was like, what the fuck am I reading? Like, this is honestly wild. But could I put this book down? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I feel like I can't even really describe it. I feel like you have to read it to believe it. But be warned, this is not for the faint-hearted. It's incredibly, incredibly spicy. I may have gagged a few times whilst reading this book. There was a couple of moments, they were too much for me. I'm not gonna lie. But I had to keep reading. I had to know how it was going to end. I was like, I genuinely don't know who I'm rooting for. Do I want her to be with like the sexy snake, or do I want her to be with the dreamy prince? I couldn't work it out. There's a book 2 coming. I don't really know where it's going to go in book 2. I feel like book 1, everything was wrapped up quite nicely, but apparently we are carrying on the wildness that is the sexy snake book. So I am intrigued to see where we're going to go from here. But honestly, what a book. What a ride it was. What a journey. I would love to know if any of you guys have read this book, because I feel like I just need to talk about it, because I was almost in like disbelief when I was reading it of like, oh my God, is this book actually real life? It was like, she must have had like a fever dream and then was like, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to write that in a book and I'm going to develop it. But honestly, I had a great time reading it. It enthralled me. It got me out of my Onyx Storm hangover. Like, yeah. Made me stop thinking about Xaden. Didn't think anything could. So that is my reading month. I've had such a variety. We've had dragons, we've had snakes, we've had dancers, like we've had cards. We've had spicy fae. We've had a mixture of everything. It's been great. So yeah, February, it's already been a busy month in Feb. So I'm excited to talk about my February reading wrap up. So yeah, very excited about that. But let me know what you guys have been reading. What was your favourite read of January? Let me know in the comments. I would love to add some more books to my TBR. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you very soon in my next video.